Greetings from the Jazz Cloud. I'm Richie Zellen, and I'm happy to welcome you to the Jazz Guitar channel. If you've been keeping up with my recent videos, you'll recall that a few weeks ago I posted a lesson titled 18 Bebop Licks by Charlie Parker. And today I'm doing the same, only that with some Wes Montgomery transcriptions. And if you haven't watched the Charlie Parker lesson, I recommend you go back and watch it because you are going to understand better how Wes uses some of the same concepts which are the essence of the bebop language. In the Charlie Parker video, I analyzed the makeup of each one of his 18 licks, and I show you the architecture of a bebop line through a series of elements that are common to all his phrases. Today, I will show you how Wes incorporated those same elements in his lines. However, we'll see that Wes was a tad more sophisticated because he appeared on the jazz scene a good 10 to 15 years later, that is mid-50s to early 60s, and jazz, of course, had somewhat evolved throughout this period. But before I start analyzing and teaching you each phrase, I want to give you a quick taste of how these phrases sound like in the context of a well-known standard. Next, I'm going to incorporate some of the Wes phrases we are going to learn over the changes to the A section of Autumn Leaves. Here it goes. Notice that while Wes plucked using his thumb, I played using a pick. And I bring that up because the point of this lesson is not how to sound like Wes Montgomery. You'll never sound like Wes, and I believe that there is no point in it. Instead, the objective here is to learn some of his lines, understand how they were constructed, and use them as models to create your own lines, that is, using several different variations. Of course, before we can begin to do that, we need to learn the original phrases, we need to understand the rhythmic and melodic makeup, and be able to perform them in any key, anywhere throughout the fretboard. That will in turn require that we work them out using various fingerings. So with that in mind, I'm going to teach you each phrase in two different keys and fingerings, a perfect fourth apart from each other. And I've transposed each phrase to the keys of a C and F for easy comparison. But regardless of the key, the important thing is for you to learn and understand the intervallic makeup of each phrase because the fingerings are easily movable on the fretboard to any key. The first 6 phrases I'm going to show you are from Wes's solo over Tune-Up by Miles Davis from the album Moving Along. And if you know the tune, you know that it is an excellent vehicle to practice soloing over 4-measure major 2-5-1s over 3 different key centers. However, I will only be teaching you a 3-measure 2-5-1 because Wes reharmonizes the 4th measure with a tritone sub 2-5, which usually won't work outside of the tune-up modulations. And we want these phrases to work over any regular major 2-5-1. Phrase number 1 from tune-up, and here it is as a 2-5-1 in the key of C. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here it is transposed to the key of F, a different fingering up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's analyze this, and we'll we'll go back to the key of C for that. And it's starting out on the D minor, going from the 6 to the flatted 7, and then doing a chromatic approach to the 6. So a little pick up there with the 5th to the 5 chord, starting with the root. 1 flat 7, and then there's an enclosure to the flatted 13. 3, and then it anticipates the 9th on the 1 chord. And we will see a very, very similar phrase in number 3. So keep in mind what we saw here. Phrase number 2, also from tune-up. And here we have a straight 2-5-1. So let's play it in the key of C. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a very catchy lick. Here it is transposed to F. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's quickly analyze this. Going back to C here. He's got the flat 7, the 5, the flat 3, and then he uses the 2 as a passing tone to the 1. And right before going to the 5 chord, he plays the flatted 7 again. And then over the 5 chord, he plays the 9th. He plays the flatted 7, the 13, and the 5. The only thing he's missing in there is the 3rd, but sounds great. And then the final measure here over the 1 chord, the C major 7, again, arpeggio based. 7, 5, 3, 2, 1. He's actually doing the same thing he did over the minor chord, over the initial measure he did. And he's doing, taking the same arpeggio-based motif to play it over the 1 chord. Let's turn this into minor. And this is something else that you should consider doing with these phrases. That way you can recycle them and get more bang for your buck when you learn these, you know. So when we go to minor, a minor 2-5-1, the 2 chord would be a minor 7 flat 5. The 5 chord would be altered, of course, and the 1 chord would be minor. Could be minor 7, could be 1 minor major 7th. And let's do the 2 chord here. We're keeping the flatted 7 the way it is, flatting the 5th, being the flatted 3rd, and flatting the 2 to make it Locrian. So, and then for the 5 chord, it would be, we want to flat the 9th, flat the 13, and the 5th, we want to alter that, so we're going to turn that into, instead of a 5th, into a sharp 11. So all together, 1, 2, 3, 4. From here on, when I analyze each lick, I want you to take note of 4 important elements that serve as the melodic building blocks of every Wes Montgomery phrase. And these are the same 4 elements that I pointed out for the 18 licks by Charlie Parker. So here is further proof that they are essential components of the bebop idiom. And they are, number 1, predominant use of arpeggios. Like Bird, Wes was always outlining the harmony. He was always implying the harmony in his lines, which is a trait of every great jazz improviser. He was thinking foremost not in scales, but instead in terms of the chord arpeggio of the moment. Number 2, frequent use of upper extensions, occasionally preceded by a wide leap. And I am referring here to the use of ninths, 11ths, and 13ths, which he frequently would leap up to from a lower chord tone and in this way make it stand out. Number 3, chord tones preceded by approach tones such as enclosures. And this is what is known also as targeting. And finally, number 4, the use of scales interspersed with chromatic passing tones. So throughout the analysis, we will be peeking under the hood of these phrases, so to speak, to better understand what makes them tick. And this is essential if you want to reverse engineer them to reassemble them as your own. Phrase number 3, also from Tune Up. And I mentioned when I played the first phrase that we were going to hear one that is very, very similar. So check this out. And it goes like this in the key of C. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very similar. Uses a lot of the same notes, the same motif. He does an enclosure just like in the first phrase around the flatted 13 on the 5 chord. Anticipates the 9 on the 1 chord, but kind of changes the rest of the phrase. He goes to 1, 13, uses the major 7 as an upper neighboring tone, and ends on that 13. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I've shown you in these first licks or phrases is the same procedure you can use to practice the remaining licks. However, to save time, since we have so much to cover, from here on I am only going to play each phrase in the key of C. To follow along in practice, I want to encourage you to download the 10-page PDF, which contains each lick with its melodic analysis notated in 2 keys, as well as the tab displaying 2 different fingerings. The download also includes MP3s of all the licks and a band-in-a-box file with all the material. That is, if you have the software, that can come in very handy. And it also includes all the files for the transcription of the initial Autumn Leaves example. And you can download all of this for a very small contribution. And please know that in doing so, you'll be helping support this channel, as these lessons require lots of time and effort to produce. Just visit jazzguitar.richieZellen.com/premium and you'll find the 18 Bebop licks by Wes Montgomery under solo transcriptions. Number 4, also from Tune Up. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty simple, but very tasty. So let's analyze it. You're starting out with the 11th, really emphasizing that over the whole measure for the 2 chord. And then that same note becomes the root of the 5 chord. And here we have the classic leap, going from a chord tone to an upper extension. And we saw a lot of this when I taught you the 18 licks by Charlie Parker, and here we see Wes doing it. So he goes. And then he ends it. 3, 9, 7, 13. Let's turn this one to minor. We're going to keep the 11th over the 2 minor chord, because the D minor 7 flat 5 can also take an 11th. And all we're going to do for the second chord is flat the 13. And we're going to turn the 5 into a sharp 11. And we're going to end on a 1 minor 7th chord with the flatted 3, the 9th, the flatted 7, and a 6. So it would go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's it. Number 5, also from tune-up. And this is one of the phrases that I included in the initial example where I played some Wes Vocabulary over Autumn Leaves. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's analyze this. The first measure over the D minor 7, pure arpeggio, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 2, 1, again flat 7, 5, and then a chromatic approach to the third, which begins the measure for the 5 chord. And then he goes up to the octave and plays the third again. 3, 2, 1, 13, 5. And then a chromatic approach to the 7th of the C major, or the 1 chord. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Number 6, the final one from tune-up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Tasty, very catchy. First measure, the 9. The second measure, the flatted 13. 5, and then over the final measure, the 1 chord. Number 7, and this is from All Privov, Charlie Parker Classic Blues, and it's from the alternate take from the album The Complete Riverside Recordings. And this is a 2-5-1 in major, and we see something here that Wes did frequently. He would substitute the 5 chord, the regular dominant, for a dominant sus4. And he really emphasizes it here. But the first chord, let's look at this, let's play it. The first chord is arpeggio based, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two. And like I said, over the G7 sus4, he really emphasizes that 4. He'll play, first he plays the 1, flat 7, 6. And he uses the 3 as an approach tone to the 4. See, that's the 4 over a G chord, the C. And then he uses a chromatic approach to the 3 of the 1 chord, the C6. Number 8, and this is from Bud's Bow Arts from the album The Groove Brothers. And this is one of my favorite Wes Montgomery albums. And this is one of my favorite solos by Wes. And I'm including several transcriptions from this solo. This is the first one. And Here we have a 4 measure, 2, 5, 1, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And on this one, I just want to point out that he does that classic leap over the 5 chord, the second measure. He leaps from the 3 to the 13. And also, the other interesting thing is towards the end, right before the 4th measure, over the 1 chord, he starts an enclosure. So he's enclosing the 1. Number 9, also from Bud's Bow Arts, same piece. Number 9. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful line. So he starts out with a minor 9th arpeggio. And then he goes to the 5 chord, and again we have this classic leap. He did a lot of those leaps from a chord tone to extension, specifically going from the 3rd of the chord and leaping up to the 13. So it goes, yeah. Goes to the sharp 9, flat 9, and over the 1 chord, we notice that he does an enclosure again to the 1, and he did that previously also. See, there it is. 2, 7, 1, and then he goes up the triad, 3, 5. Number 10, again from Bud's Bow Arts, from the Groove Brothers. And this is a minor 2-5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and. And you might recall I also included this phrase in the initial Autumn Leaves example with Wes Vocabulary. The interesting thing is the enclosure that he uses over the 2nd measure as an anticipation to resolve to the 5 of the 1 minor 6 chord. He does, and again arpeggio based. Number 11, and this is the final one from the same tune, Bud's Bow Arts from the album The Groove Brothers. Another great phrase, and also a minor 2-5-1. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one you'll also recall that I used over that initial Autumn Leaves. And it's very scalar, as you can see. Really plays through the altered scale there on that 5 chord. Then goes to the 1 minor major 7 chord. And does an enclosure to the flat 3. 4, 2, flat 3. And then he does another enclosure to the 1. which we've seen he does a lot of. And number 12, now we're moving on to a few phrases from Wes's solo on The Way You Look Tonight from the album Guitar on the Go. Another great solo. And it goes like this. This is a major 2, 5, 1, and then it ends with the 5, 7 of the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So again, very scalar. And in this one, the interesting thing to notice is, again, over the 5-7 chord, the second measure, he leaps from the 13 to another extension to the 9. So he's over here, and he's going leaps. And then on the final chord, we have a enclosure to the final flatted 7. He's enclosing it with the sharp 5 from below, and he's going. Number 13, also from The Way You Look Tonight, and here we have the classic dominant substitution for a dominant sus4 chord that Wes did often in the second measure. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4. Again, arpeggio based. The first measure, he's implying the 5, the regular 5 chord for the second half. He starts out that's the D minor, the 2 chord. And then he implies the G7 for the second half. And then he goes into the G7 sus4. Starts with the 9, chromatic 1, flat 7, 6, 5, 4. He never goes to a 3, notice that. Then he jumps to the 1 and resolves to the 1 chord. And then he goes to the A7 flat 9. Ends on that sharp 5, which I believe is kind of a pickup to whatever he played next. Number 14, also from The Way You Look Tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the first measure here is just playing a 9th arpeggio, a minor 9th arpeggio. Second measure, implying a G7 13 chord, and then simply ending on the 5th of the 1 chord, the C major 7, the G. Let's turn this one to minor, and all we need to do here in the first measure is turn that 5th into a flatted 5. So, and then for the 5 chord, we want to make that altered, so we want to turn that 13 into a flatted 13 and leave the 5 alone for the 1 chord because it's diatonic to a C minor 7. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. Number 15, and here we have a transcription from a solo Wes played as a sideman for an album by saxophonist Harold Land. And the album is called Compulsion, and the tune is Terrain. And we're going to do a couple of 2/5s from this recording, from this solo. And these two are minor 7 2/5s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Over the D minor 7, flat 5. Yeah, that's pretty standard. He's got the two main guide tones in there, the flatted 7 and the flatted 3. But over the G7 flat 9, he's got a 1. He's got the root twice, and the 5. He's got no 7th. He's got the 3rd at the end. So yeah, kind of implies the chord. And then over the C minor, the 1 chord, it's kind of hybrid again because the whole measure has no flatted 3, so you wouldn't really know what kind of chord it is if you weren't hearing the keyboard player in the background. Number 16, also from the same recording, Terrain, from the Harold Land album Compulsion. Another minor 2/5-1, 2 measures only, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here in the first measure, we have a very nice little enclosure to the flatted 5. And then he does the root of the 5 chord, a chromatic approach, chromatic passing tone to the flat 7, the 13, and he anticipates the 9 of the C minor 6. Ends on the 6th. No flatted 3 on that 1 minor chord. Very hybrid. Number 17, and this is from Ekara, from the album A Dynamic New Sound, and this is a Horace Silver composition. And Ekara, for those that don't know, it is actually Horace. It's supposed to be Horace spelled backwards, but here it was spelled with an A. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Ecaroh, Ekora, which is Horace backwards, but that's what I understand, and I've been told, and I've read. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice phrase. It starts out with an arpeggio with no 3rd, again, another hybrid there. But he's got the 7th in there. It's recognizable. And then over the G7 sharp 5, he starts with the sharp 5, leaps up to the 3rd, into the 9. It really implies the chord, and ends on the 1 chord, and he's got one of those leaps between extensions here. He first does 5, 1, and then he does 13, leaps up to the 9, and plays 7, 1. See, he does that 13, 9 sound there. And here's the phrase from Ekara turned into a minor 2-5. And I'm altering the fifth over the first half of the first measure to make it a flat 5 for a D minor 7 flat 5 chord. And I'm leaving everything else the same because I'm playing a C minor major 7 on the second measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 18, our final lick. And this one's from Ergin, another backwards name. And this is a Sonny Rollins composition, and Ergin is Nigeria spelled backwards. That was just a coincidence. These two tunes with backwards names are together here on this list. Interesting. I wonder if the universe is trying to tell me something. Okay, and this is from the Incredible Jazz Guitar. And this is a G7 sus4, a 5 chord to 1 chord C major 7 progression. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you can see in that first phrase over the G7 sus4, he's got the flatted 7, the 9, the 4th, and the 13. He's got that 4th again, and then does a chromatic approach to the 5th of the 1 chord. And he's got an enclosure. And what he has here is what is known as a 3-note enclosure, which is 4, 2, chromatic, and resolves. That's the target note. 3 notes before it. And lower neighboring tone, resolving again to the 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And for those of you who are still with me, I sincerely hope this lesson has provided you with a deeper insight into the bebop language, and hope that you will start incorporating this material into your playing. As usual, I appreciate your likes and comments, and if you enjoyed this lesson and haven't subscribed to the Jazz Guitar channel yet, well, you're only a click away. I'm Richie Zellen, and it's time to say, stay safe, peace be with you, y nos vemos pronto. Shalom.